Is this not the cleanest transmission pan you've ever seen? Well, I just got done cleaning it out, of course. It's for my wife's 2005 GMC Envoy. She just informed me a few days ago that she's heading out on a very long road trip without me. And so that designates me to do all the maintenance on her car before she heads out. So today there's 4 major things I'm gonna be doing on her car. Number 1, of course, oil change. Number 2, we're actually cleaning the throttle body inside and out. Number 3, I'm actually gonna be dropping that transmission pan, changing the filter, and replacing that fluid. And the 4th thing is the battery. I just wanna make sure that this car has absolutely no issues as she heads out on a probably 1,000+ mile road trip. Let's get into it.
Well, I just bought my first set of ramps. I've always been using a jack and jack stands, but that gets old. So I wanted a set of ramps, did some research, found these Rhino ramps. These are the Max version, which supposedly can easily support a 16,000 pound vehicle. That basically means the front end can weigh 8,000, which means each one of these can support 4,000 pounds. Okay, here we go. Up the ramps. Oh, wow. That wasn't good. It honestly is probably my technique just now, so we'll try that again. Let's do this. We're gonna try to just be constant up the ramp. I think we're good. You just saw and heard as I hit this lip here, this stop on the ramps, you saw them kind of jump forward, and that is because this ground is very slick concrete and it's hard plastic, so they're gonna slip when you do something like that. I wish it didn't do that. I wish there was maybe another stop, like rubber foot system up here in the front to prevent that from happening, but maybe, just maybe, that's kind of made by design. I don't know. Bottom line is the vehicle is on the ramps. We're even on both sides. So even though the ramps are overkill, let me show you what else I'm doing to ensure the utmost safety. Number 1, I have the e-brake on. And number 2, you can see I'm using 2 jack stands all the way up. And number 3, I've chalked off the tires. You can see on that side I'm using a sandbag, but that's just because I can't find my other wheel chalk. All right, so today's goal is to get my wife's Envoy ready for a long road trip. And while there's a few things I'm gonna be doing, number 1, first and foremost, is to get this oil changed. You can see my last oil change was back in April at 56,677 miles. And it looks like our current mileage is 62,230. So that means the oil hasn't been changed in, let's see, 5,553 miles. And as for the type of oil I'm gonna use today, this is the Costco brand Kirkland Signature Full Synthetic 5W30. All right, so these ramps take the vehicle up about 6.5 inches or so. And this is plenty of room for me to get under here, remove access panels, and be able to change the oil. Okay, rather than just remove this small access panel, which is what I normally do, I'm actually gonna take off this big access panel because I never have. I'm just curious what it looks like under here. Maybe? Oh, that just came right out, okay. Okay, the good thing about removing that entire access panel is now we just have a lot of room. I can get to see things. And the main thing isn't really this drain plug. The main thing for me is actually having access to the oil filter. I just grabbed my drain pan and realized that it is made by Flowtool, which is the same company that makes these ramps. Didn't even realize that. That's pretty cool. All right, I've got the drain bucket placed. Once that's loose, I like to unscrew it by hand. I can see that the gasket for my drain plug stuck to the pan here. It's always something, huh? I keep positive pressure on the plug till I feel it skip over on itself like that. Now we got 7 quarts that are gonna drain out of here, so we gotta make sure that when we use this drain bucket that it's empty. All right, the bottom end is all buttoned up, and now is the easy part, which is adding the new oil. So I know that this container is 5 quarts, so I'm just gonna empty this entire thing. All right, with the oil change done, the next thing I'm gonna do is actually relating to that rough idle that I've been showing you guys. The one thing that doesn't cost money that I haven't really fully done, I did it once, was cleaned out the throttle body here. I did do it from the outside at one point and it was very dirty, but I realized by watching a few more videos that it's possibly very dirty on the backside as well. And so it seems like not too big of a job and free for me to go ahead and remove this thing and get this thing cleaned out from the inside and outside. Maybe that's all it is. People say that is a very, very common issue on these vehicles, to have a rough idle because of a simply dirty throttle body here. So That's what I'm gonna tackle right now. Well, here's the inside of that throttle body. Like I said, I've already cleaned it from the outside here. I was able to get in here, open this up, and get some good cleaning in there. But it looks like there's only 4 bolts that I need to take out. I can remove this thing and actually get it from the backside as well. Should be loosening it. Yep, there we go. Okay. I just went ahead and disconnected the negative side of the battery. Okay, so now that everything is disconnected, I can depress this plug. All right, we are good to go. Wow, and that does look pretty dirty and oily. Although, except for this little area here, it's not as dirty back here as I was suspecting it to be. So I'm wondering if this is gonna do anything at all, but hey, it could be a little cleaner for sure. All right, I bought this CRC throttle body and air intake cleaner, but rather than just spraying this stuff all over the throttle body, which I still may do, I'm first gonna start by spraying the brush and then bringing the brush to the throttle body. Okay, we got some fluid on the brush. Not too bad, though I do feel like I am going to have to just spray it directly on here. I do have proper eyewear protection. I'm not breathing this stuff, and I'm double gloved here. All right, let's take a look at the inside of this throttle body so far. I've actually got it to be really, really clean. And I will say the CRC cleaner, as soon as I would spray it on here, I would see some of the stuff just melt away without having to do any work at all. But there was some pretty gnarly deposits down here that it just wouldn't get off. You can see some of those deposits right there. Now, what I actually found was by using this 6000 grit sandpaper and just a little bit of water, I can just barely press on this stuff and it just melts away. Look at that. It's almost, I could just use my finger for that to work. See how clean that is now? And there's that surface right in there, and you can see it is absolutely spotless. And I'll take my rag in here and dry everything out. Taking a closer look inside of this thing, this is probably just as clean as this came from the factory. So I'm also gonna be replacing this throttle body gasket, which I think you just pull straight out. And I have a brand new AC Delco unit. The number is 217-1592. And before I replace that, I'm gonna reach in here, just try to wipe some of this stuff out. We have that area cleaned out. I'm now gonna place this new gasket in here, right into the slot. And there's a locator tab right here at the top. All right, for those of you out there who may drive an Envoy or a Trailblazer, which are both practically the same vehicle, what I've seen online in multiple places after you clean a throttle body is to remove fuse number 10, which says PCMB, and also fuse 28, which says PCM1. On my Envoy, the fuse 10 was right here, and fuse 28 was right there. I have both fuses resting out of the way. From what I gather, the theory behind this is, for some reason, that resets the computer so that it has to relearn the throttle body. I don't understand why that would have to happen if the battery is disconnected. That's what they say, so I'm trying it out. All right, the next bit of maintenance I'm gonna do is a transmission fluid and filter change, which means I gotta drop this pan. And we are already dripping, so I'm gonna have to try to get this thing to drop one corner without getting soaked in transmission fluid. Okay, we are free. I'm gonna hold this thing up, try to get this fluid out. There we go. Ugh. Ugh. A lot of that poured on the ground, not gonna lie. All right, well, after the horrible mess I just made under here, it's now time to figure out which filter I need for this transmission. I'm 99% sure it's this deeper one, but I did go ahead and buy this shallow pan filter. You can see how thin that is. So let's go check the filter that's installed in the truck. Oh yeah, looking at that filter, we can see that we indeed have the deep pan filter. That is this filter right here. It is definitely not the other one. And if you're wondering exactly which filter I'm using, it is Wix 58847. All I'm gonna do is just kind of wiggle this thing back and forth here. Pulling on it at the, yep, just like that. And there is quite a bit of fluid, as you can see, that's coming out of that. Okay, so here's our two filters. The original, you can see, is covered in transmission fluid. And this one. So this is our Wix. And they are obviously the same depth, same everything here. But if you look at this one, there's this kind of, I feel like that might be like an F or something in that logo there. And that's all I see on this. On the other side, there's no markings. So if any of you out there know what that F is, C2 tool, if that's original to this vehicle, if that's some kind of GM part, let me know down in the comments below. Here's what the inside of the pan looks like. You can see there's a couple of little things here and there, just dirt and debris. Here we have the magnet. There's a little bit on there. That's pretty normal. This is a 60,000 mile, I believe, first change on this transmission. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm just glad that there's a magnet in here. So now I'm just gonna clean up this pan and we can get everything buttoned back up. All right, well, what do you think about that? I got this pan completely cleaned out, which included scraping all of the old gasket material off. And let me tell you, that was a chore. But this thing now looks like brand new. So let's get this reinstalled. All right, we just got the transmission buttoned up, and the last thing we're gonna be doing is replacing the battery in this vehicle. You can see this one has a 36-month warranty, but usually they last a little bit longer than that, unless it's extreme condition. So I'm gonna go ahead and change this battery out just as a general maintenance item. I don't want to have to worry about the battery at this point. So we have a brand new battery, which will be good for years and years to come. All right, so these vehicles have this weird bar that, I mean, I guess it's not weird. It secures the battery down. And now, let's take off this vent tube. There we go. Let's try to figure out the date code on this. Okay, so looking at the top of this AC Delco battery, you see this code right here, P067R. From what I understand, the 3 digits after determine the date of the battery. So 06 would be the month, so that's June, and then 7 would potentially be 2017. So if that's the case, and I'm sure it is, this battery is over 6 years old. So even though it still works and still powers on the car, I actually did find a bit of corrosion on there. You can see it right there on the battery side. At over 6 years old, I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'm gonna replace this battery with a brand new one, so I don't have to worry about this thing dying this winter. All right, I've been out here for so long that my audio equipment batteries died, so old battery out. Well, I just had to cut this rubber sleeve off of this positive battery terminal because there was so much corrosion in there pouring out. I've been working at this for probably a half hour now. Finally decided to cut this rubber thing off. There was all kinds of corrosion in there. You can see the corrosion on the backside here. I'm gonna clean all of this up. I'm now done putting everything back together. I got the new battery in, I took care of the terminal on the positive side. Everything is back together and back in. We got all of our oil in the crankcase. We have our transmission fluid in the transmission. All right, I've been messing with this thing for a little bit. I've driven it around the block, came back, checked fluid levels, drove it around the block again, and unfortunately, the rough idle persists. It's still there. Cleaning that throttle body, although, you know, it couldn't have hurt, didn't help any with the rough idle. And the new battery, although it definitely was due, and that makes me feel better that this thing isn't gonna die due to a dead battery. All that corrosion, that didn't help either, but makes me feel better. Now, as for the transmission fluid levels, I've already topped it off. It's right there in the middle of the crosshatch section. I'm gonna check it again here in a minute. And I think what I'm gonna do is after I shut the car off and it sits overnight, in the morning, I'll come back and check the oil levels and make sure that we have enough in there. I do have 7 quarts. I'll just double check it in the morning.